Serious. What's the creepiest thing that you've witnessed or experienced? Viewer discretion is advised. Please do like, share, and subscribe. I was in one of my best friend's birthday parties when I was around 11 years old, and it was in the countryside of my city. For some reason, we decided to go out to the road. It was a dirt road with no lights, so dark AF. And at the end of the road, we saw a green light far away. We got creeped out and thought it was an alien or some shit like that. But it was on the ground, and we started shouting stuff and throwing rocks, trying to be funny and to make the tension go away. The time went on, and we ended up going inside again. The next morning, when we were in class, my best friend told me his mom called a neighbor who lived in that direction of the light the next day, and turns out it was a guy on a bike who was ran over and left there dead. And the green light was the reflective vest that are mandatory to use if you ride a bike at night. I sometimes think about what could have happened and how traumatized we would have been if we saw a dead body at night at 11 years old. When my mom and stepdad first got married, I was 7 to 8 years old. My stepdad would try to be alone with me, often taking me into his and my mom's bedroom and shutting the door. He did this a few times. Nothing ever happened because each time my younger brothers were right behind me, barging into the room and demanding attention too. I didn't think anything of it then because I was a little kid. But now I think of how lucky I was that my brothers decided to follow us. I never told anyone. Mine is actually super funny, but at the time it scared the shit out of me. I was working as a live-in companion for an elderly woman, helping with her errands and some medical needs. Mostly, she just shouldn't be living alone, but she refused to go into a nursing home, so her kids paid me to spend a few hours with her at night, keeping her company, and then sleeping in the guest bedroom and being there when she woke. Easy job. Hurricane Matthew hits us, and the power goes out. I get up to pee. The hallway is pitch black. Lightning is flashing. I'm trying not to let my irrational mind flare up. I'm about halfway down the hallway when I hear a female voice talking very fast just down the hall at the darkest end. I scream and run into the bathroom and lock the door. I don't know what I was thinking because a lock isn't going to keep a ghost out, and if it were an intruder, then they'd know I was awake and where I was, and that I knew they were there. Either way, I was convinced locking myself in the bathroom was the smartest thing to do. First thing I do after I lock the door is pee, because I practically wet myself when the voice started, and then I called the name of the old lady, but she didn't answer because she's hard of hearing. So I was basically all alone with either a ghost or a fast-talking lady robber and locked in the damn bathroom. I must have stayed in that bathroom for half an hour, waiting for something to happen, hearing nothing outside but the sound of wind and thunder and rain. I was convinced there was something or someone standing on the other side of the door waiting to strike. I was also so sleepy and just wanted to go back to bed. The old lady never had guests because her kids all lived within a few miles of her house, so the bathroom didn't have anything decorative, just a ceramic soap dispenser, so I picked it up and braced it as I bludgeoned and opened the door. I ran as fast as I could back to my room and shut myself in, clutching the soap dispenser and waiting for whoever had been talking to come and get me. 10 minutes later, I hear the creak of a door open down the hall and the sound of shuffling footsteps getting closer, and I just prepared myself to hurtle that damn soap dispenser at whatever dared come into my room. The knob turns. The door starts to creep open, a strange yellow light flooding in. I screamed like the little bitch I was and started begging not to die. It was the old lady with a flashlight. She'd woken up to pee and noticed the power was off, so she wanted to check on me and make sure I was okay. We both just collapsed on the bed laughing our asses off. When we'd calmed down, I told her I'd been terrified for the last hour because I heard a woman talking somewhere near her bedroom right after the power went off. The old lady started laughing again and told me that was her life alert home security system letting her know the power had gone off, and if she needed assistance, to use her alert necklace to summon police, fire, or medical. And I was going to kill it with a soap dispenser in the shape of a ducking fish. 2 a.m. Very distinctly could hear my granddad, 86, and my mom, 48, who have both passed away in 2019, laughing happily from the front room and talking. I couldn't afford to have them buried, so their urns are both in the front room. I am not the only one to feel activity since I brought both urns home. Don't get me wrong, it is nice to think of them pain-free together again, and happy, and hearing them was nice, but at 2 a.m. in the dark, going to the toilet, it did make me jump. A couple years ago, I was on a ferry leaving a small island off the coast of Rhode Island, about an hour-long ride in total. It was a cloudy day with some fog, but as soon as the ferry departed to take us back, the fog intensified to where we could only see about 50 to 75 yards in front of us. I went down to the stern with my dad. We had got some cigars on our trip, and the only area where smoking was allowed was down around by the propellers. So we're standing around smoking our cigars, drinking a beer, when we see a guy riding a jet ski in the wake of the ferry. Me and my dad both looked at each other in disbelief. Why someone ever would ride a jet ski through the open ocean on a day with heavy fog is beyond me. We're watching him dodge through our wake, hitting waves and catching some air, weave in between some of the heavier swells. Then all of a sudden, he hits a wake at an awkward angle, and immediately the jet ski goes one way and he goes another, both disappearing almost instantly into the fog. We ran up to go get someone from the crew, but apparently they'd been watching the guy as well. So as soon as he lost control, the crew alerted the captain. The ferry laid on its horn and did a complete 180 turn in order to look for the missing jet skier. The fog was still thick, but the boat turned around about 1 minute after he fell. We searched for about a half an hour with no sign of either the jet ski or the unfortunate man who was riding it. Eventually, the captain announced that we had to go back and the Coast Guard would continue the search. We made it back to shore, and for the next few days or weeks, I was constantly checking the local news for anything related to this story. However, there was nothing. It still keeps me up wondering about the man on the jet ski. Just imagining the horror of being 5 miles from either shore, the panic of trying to look for the jet ski while you're in 3-foot swells, knowing that if you do not find it immediately, the current will take it and you're stranded in the middle of the open ocean. But even if you did get lucky and find that jet ski, the fog is so thick, how would you even know that you're heading in the right direction? You could get back on a ride off into the Atlantic until the jet ski ran out of gas. The open ocean is beautiful but unforgiving, and I just hope this guy didn't experience anything like the scenarios I can't stop imagining. When I was about 6 years old, I was at my grandparents' house for the weekend. They had a massive garden that I would play in for hours at a time. One day, I was out there, out of view of my grandparents, and a man climbed over the fence and crouched down behind some planters and was staring at me. I was frozen, because he could see me and he knew I could see him, and he just stared at me whilst crouching. He looked scruffy and unhinged, and he was scratching his arms. He kissed towards me a few times, too, and was mumbling to himself. My grandpa happened to come over, saw me stood there like a statue, and then saw the man. He jumped because it caught him off guard, but to my amazement, he just sprinted towards the man and tackled him down to the ground. I screamed, and my grandma ran outside and ran back in to call the police. The whole time, he was looking at me, literally wouldn't stop staring at me to the point where my grandpa was getting very angry and looked like he was close to choking him or something. The police came super quick, and that was that. I'm 30, and it still creeps me the duck out. I was helping my dad at the church as a little kid. I was just there so I wasn't home alone, and I was sitting there and my dad told me, I'm going to run this bag outside to the dumpster. Not a big deal. Then when he leaves, out of nowhere, I hear a little girl start singing. I jumped up and ran around not knowing what to do. My dad came back in and heard it too, grabbed my arm and said, "That's enough cleaning for tonight," and we left immediately. The proper story is super long, but I was working in a Victorian-era hotel and I heard a man speak fairly clearly in the corner of an empty room at about 11 p.m. at night, in an area no guests were allowed to be. Even checked the CCTV after, and it proved I was 100% alone. I was a janitor at a church for a year, and one time I witnessed a guy stealing a bunch of music equipment. I was immediately aware that something wasn't right, and when I asked why he was there, he dodged my question and ran for it. I ended up pointing him out in a police lineup and was set to testify against him in court. He ended up pleading guilty when, by accident, he saw me before his trial was set to start. To this day, it still creeps me out that the guy knows what I look like and generally where I live. TLDR. Girlfriend's mom passed away. Her clothes leave a sweat mark at funeral home. I don't know if it's considered as creepy, but last year my girlfriend's mother passed away due to cancer. Then her family arranged a Buddhist ceremony on the funeral home. So there are a lot of Buddhist beliefs like burning daily stuff, printed on paper, shirts, fake paper money things like that, where they believe it will transfer to the person who died. On her mother's casket, they also brought her favorite clothes to be buried as well. But out of all the clothes, there is only one that she really liked. It was kind of a formal style dress in pink, and they laid the clothes on a chair in a position as if there is someone wearing it, and sit on the chair. They put the chair and the clothes near the casket so people who come to pay a visit will look at that clothes chair as well. Then, on the second day I went there, it was a hot day. I live in a tropical climate country, hotter than usual, and the funeral home they rent was only equipped with fans, so it didn't do much to battle the heat. I was approached by my girlfriend. She said, "Hey, look," and pointed at the dress that was put on the chair has a sweat mark on the back part of the shirt, a part where if someone wore them, they would leave a mark on that exact spot. It was shaped like a perfect vertically elongated oval. I asked my girlfriend, why is there a wet spot there? She said, "It's Mom," with a little smile on her face. As a skeptic, I can't explain what happened there. It can't be someone spilled their drink because it will leave water spots. It can't be water condensation because there was no difference in temperature between outside and inside the funeral home. Like I said, only one small fan inside. Fast forward to the evening of that day. Me and my girlfriend's friend came to visit. One of my friends claims she could see ghosts, spirits, etc. And she's actually one of my girlfriend's best friends. She told us that my girlfriend's mom was there, and she's smiling with a bit of tears on her eyes, sitting on that chair, but also sometimes gets up and stands near the big paper house that will be burned on the last day. My girlfriend said she's a bit relieved, though she's still deeply saddened with what happened to her mom. Once I awoke suddenly when what felt like a pressure wave struck me. I saw hateful eyes looking at me, and then they faded. It was 0400, so my heart was now racing, and I couldn't get back to sleep. That evening, my brother's family phoned to say my brother was in ICU after collapsing at 0400 and nearly dying. So I experienced his near death, which I found out later was scary and not happy. Probably my imaginary friend I had when I was very little. I don't remember this, so it's all secondhand stories, but I called him Mr. Pinky Man, and apparently he told me things like a big tractor in a field where me and a bunch of other kids would go, and apparently I would bring up things that I shouldn't have known about yet, and apparently his name was Pinky Man because he lost his pinky in some accident. I don't know, it scares me when I really start thinking about it. Witnessed a suicide by cop when I was 15. That went south in a hurry. I was walking along the bridges toward the basketball courts when a whole group of my friends, maybe 7 of us, we get to the courts to see about 10 or 11 cop cars spread out across the parking lot, and a lone man is standing in the center of the basketball court with a 12 gauge. He got lit up because he started to lift the gun in the direction of the officers. When I was about 7 or 8, I woke up in the morning and went downstairs to get some breakfast. I come down the stairs, turn the corner to go through the living room to the kitchen. In the far corner of the living room was a recliner and a birthday balloon that was my sister's. It was one of those that had the silver back to them. It had been there a couple days, so it had started to lose air, but was still levitating in the corner. I take about 2 steps, and I watch the thing just drop like it was made of lead. No warning, no sound, nothing, just dropped. I decided I wasn't hungry. I went back upstairs and didn't come back down until I heard my mother in the kitchen. I came back down the stairs and immediately went to the recliner, and sure enough, the balloon was still there. Since that day, I've never seen a balloon do that again. Almost lost a mountain while hiking with my friends. We're like 500 meters from peak, and we're at Savannah, so it's pretty open space and view, and I assume it's easy to see people from afar. I'm hiking with 4 of my friends. One of my friends are going first, and since my friends are taking a bunch of photos, I'm going first and leave 3 of my friends behind to catch up with my friend who went first. While I'm walking like 5 minutes and following tracks, I realize I'm lost. So I came back and waiting for other hikers to show up and ask if I can follow them while I'm explaining my situation. After meeting again with my friends, they asked me why it took so long, almost 1 hour, but it feels like I only lost for about 20 minutes. The good things are we reached the peak and go home safely. 2 years later, I heard news about a hiker who got lost at the same mountain and was found dead at the same place I got lost. The local people often associate the location where I was lost with mystical things, so it kinda creeps me out that until now, And yeah, I realize it's my mistake.